Now this is a rare find. In today's episode, we take a deep dive into Gibson history and look at one of the first Gibson Les Paul reissues ever made. This is the prehistoric Gibson RO, and the serial number is 05014, meaning it's the 14th guitar made in that year. Make sure to wait till the end of this video to hear my full review on this Gibson RO. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, and let's go back to the first year of the Gibson Les Paul reissue. Hello guys, welcome back to Squealing Pig Guitars, the home of luxury shred machines here in Nottingham, England. My name is Ben Keightley, and today we're looking at the first year of Gibson Les Paul Standard reissues. The guitar that we have today is an RO, meaning it's a 1960s reissue of a Les Paul Standard. Thanks to artists such as Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page and Slash, the Gibson Les Paul was now the guitar to own, and Gibson needed to start to reissue them. After the golden era of Gibson, the Gibson Les Paul was discontinued in 1961 to make way for the new SG. It wouldn't be until 1972 when the Les Paul was quietly reintroduced into the lineup and was officially resumed production in 1976 due to high demand. However, in 1969, Gibson's parent company, Chicago Musical Instruments, was taken over by conglomerate ECL. This introduced Gibson into the Northern era, which caused Gibson products of the time to undergo changes in manufacturing and construction. The Les Paul design in particular changed massively from the historic 50s specs. Instead of just one piece of mahogany for the body, they introduced the pancake body, which had multiple pieces of mahogany and maple to make up a body. The mahogany neck was scrapped for a 3-piece maple design, and a neck volute was added to reinforce the neck and decrease the chance of neck breaks. But after artists such as Jimmy Page, Slash and Eric Clapton were using their 50s bursts on stage, a lot of people were calling for a reissue of the original Les Paul design. In January 1986, Gibson again changed ownership and began manufacturing a range of varied Les Paul models. The 1980s also saw the end to several design characteristics, including the volute and maple neck. They started to focus in on the golden era of Gibson specs from 1952 to 1960s. In 1986, responding to high demand for vintage models, Gibson formed a custom shop division. The guitar I'm holding today is one of the very early 1960 reissue Les Pauls, and the serial number is 05014, meaning it's number 14 of that year. So the official model name of this guitar is a Gibson RO first year historic reissue. This is a rare find indeed, a Gibson RO historic reissue in incredible time capsule condition. There was only about 20 guitars made in the first year. It embodies the classic 60s Les Paul spirit with vintage feel, resonant tone and meticulous build quality. The finish on this guitar is incredible and has barely picked up any wear marks or buckle rash over its years of playing. It's an incredible time capsule piece of early Gibson custom shop history. So let's run down the specs of this amazing guitar. So here we are, I've got the case all on my lap here, and as you can see, it actually says Gibson USA on the case. So we have their kind of current 90s attempt at a Lifton case essentially. So it's like a brown USA case. You've got the kind of stitching on it. The big leather handle obviously doesn't look anything like a proper Lifton case that you'd get in these days. If you look on the screen now, this is kind of what Gibson are using now, so you can see how different this guitar looks to a standard Lifton case. We have a combo lock and a couple of these big latches, so let's open it up and see what we've got inside. So here we are, we've got the pink shroud. It's this way, sorry. We've got that beautiful Gibson reissue. So I'll get this guitar out of the case and I'm going to talk about all the specs of this amazing Gibson reissue. So here we are. Here is a piece of Gibson history. One of the first Gibson reissues ever made. So first off, this is obviously, it looks like a Les Paul, but it's got an incredibly highly figured flamed maple top on this one. And we've got some really funny features like a yellow binding on this, which is obviously ambered over. I'm unsure if this was a factory feature or if this is something that's kind of aged over the last, 20, 30 years. I'm unsure, to be honest, but obviously it does look very patinaed and it gives that kind of vintage feel. Perhaps they were trying to replicate like an early VOS thing, I'm not too sure. But as you can see, this guitar is completely clean, so it has no VOS treatment, has no kind of buffering on the finish, it's just a completely brand new finish, and that is still prevalent to this day. It's incredible time capsule condition. You could have opened this the day it was made and it looks exactly the same. It doesn't even look like it's been played. So obviously with a Gibson RO reissue, we are missing a few things that you'd typically see on an RO. The most notably being that these knobs here are actually just the ambered classic kind of lampshade knobs. They don't have the reflector style which you'd see in the 60s.
This guitar also has a short neck tenon, which isn't a historic spec. In today's reissues, you'd have a long neck tenon on all 58, 59 and 60s spec guitars.
Other than that though, it's basically a pretty, good recreation of a Les Paul. You've got mahogany back with the kind of cherry dye. This still isn't as dark as maybe the aniline dyes would be on the current models. Two-piece, highly figured flame maple top. We have this kind of factory burst, cherry sunburst type thing. So we've got a lot of red in this like kind of up about here. Go into more of an orangey yellow in the center. All of the original Les Pauls from 58 and 59 were finished in the same color, being factory burst. And basically the dye in the guitar faded under sunlight and would create lemon burst and all the other hues that we love. But the 60s, they got it right. They got a finish that didn't fade. So you see a lot of the 60s still have their red kind of hue to them. We have an ambered switch tip, which is really nice, rhythm and treble. In this guitar, these are the 57 classic humbuckers, which do sound very PAF-y, but obviously aren't Gibson's current custom bucker or their recreation of the PAF. As we work our way down to the neck, we have a mahogany neck with a very thin 60s profile. This is basically where the modern slim taper came from. This is where it was birthed, is this kind of thinner shape that's a lot more accessible to play for a lot of people. A lot of people prefer the 59, I do myself. It's a lot more rounded, a little bit more thicker, but the 60s is still very nice and a very good option if you're looking for a slightly thinner taper on your Les Paul Standard. On the guitar, obviously got a rosewood fingerboard, but we actually have real mother of pearl inlays, and these are the trapezoids. All the recreations today are actually made out of celluloid, because in 58 and 59 they weren't using real mother of pearl. This has got a little bit of aging. You can see a little bit of ambering on the higher mother of pearl inlays, but it looks really nice, lots of figuring in them. As we work our way down to the headstock, obviously a traditional Gibson headstock. We've got the bell truss rod cover, we've got the aged kind of Gibson mother of pearl inlay, and we also have the silkscreen, Les Paul silkscreen. Working our way down, we have the Gibson Deluxe tuners, which are obviously modelled off the Clousons, and we have what they did get right on this reissue is the ABR1 bridge. So we have a bridge that's directly drilled into the top. This is a wired ABR1 bridge, which was kind of an innovation for the 60s, meaning that the saddles didn't actually come out with the bridge. Originally, the ABR1 was unwired, and basically the saddles were just in, the bridge, and they would fall out. We have that stop tailpiece, that aluminium kind of lightweight stop tailpiece. Obviously, the pit guard is great. If I was personally owning this, I'd definitely take it off because this top is just too beautiful to be hiding. We have the iconic thumb bleeder, little knob pointers, which basically tell you which number of your volume or tone that you're on. 2 volumes, 2 tones. These have the bumblebee caps as well, so quite a modern feature. Just for a comparison, this is a modern Gibson reissue. This is a 58 reissue, so it's a little bit different. But you can see kind of where the specs have stayed the same to the ABR1 bridge. We do have different pickups in this, and the fit and finish is very different. This has kind of that VOS look. Also, we have the aniline dyes on the back. We've got Gibson custom plaques. We have more of the period correct specs like the celluloid inlays.
This guitar also has a long neck tenon.
And the shape of the headstock and the neck is very different. But it's very close to the two guitars.
Here are the two reissues side by side, and I think you can definitely tell that the original has a little bit more shine to the finish and is a little bit cleaner looking.
But at the end of the day, it's a Les Paul Standard. It's a very, very nice one indeed. But this is one of the most rare kind of finds that we've got. This kickstarted Gibson's biggest operation, recreating 59, 58s and 60 Les Pauls. And I would argue that it's probably their biggest kind of market these days. At the shop, we see so many people buying 59s and 58s all the time. And that's where this innovation started. So enough talking about this amazing rare guitar. Let's plug her in and see how she sounds. Welcome to the tone demonstration. So to start off with, I'm just going to show you the tone that I used in the intro of today's video, which was like a fuzzy, kind of Chris Buck inspired tone. Basically, I'm using my Kemper Profiler. I use that pretty much for all these demos on this channel. I'm using an AC30 rig with a little bit of room reverb. I'm adding a tube screamer and a fuzz pedal to create this quite chewy type fuzz. I really like. So I'm on the bridge pickup, full volume, full tone. This is kind of like the solo that I play. Great for them classic Eric Johnson triad licks. Let's hear that now, same tone but on the neck. So now that we've heard them fuzzy intro tones, let's just do some stripped back clean tones just to hear the real voicing of these 57 classic humbuckers. So starting off in the neck position, let's hear some open chords. hear some gain tones. So this is kind of my standard tube screamer going into the AC30, bit of room reverb. So guys, we're coming to the end of the video now. I hope you've really enjoyed listening to the tones of this amazing Gibson Les Paul. But what are my final thoughts on this model? Of course, this is an incredible Gibson Les Paul, and I have to say I find it very interesting, the rare history of it being one of the first reissues, number 14 in fact. And obviously this is the first reissue, so obviously Gibson have, progressed with their reissues. Obviously it's not the most historically accurate Gibson reissue, but it's a very cool piece of history for sure, and as a result it requires a big price tag for it being so rare. It's not my personal specs for Les Paul. I always prefer a bit more of a rounded and thicker neck, so I'm more of a 59, 58 guy. If you remember that olive drab Les Paul we had in a couple of weeks ago, that neck profile for me was a 58. It was pretty much perfect. It was a nice baseball bat, had a nice thick feel to it. This one's a lot thinner, but it's not to say I don't like it, it's just different. I mean, it's a bit too thin for me. Wouldn't personally go for that if I was in the market for a Les Paul. But other than that, that's the only negative. The pickups have a really nice kind of warm response. I'd say a little bit warmer than a standard PAF. The custom buckers that Gibson released now are very brittle sounding and very trebly, which I really enjoy. But this had its own unique quality, very kind of warm and great for that woman tone, that Clapton tone. Or if you were pairing it with a fuzz pedal, it has a really nice harmonic response. I'd really recommend it. This guitar just rang like a bell. Obviously it is a vintage guitar now because it's pre-2000. So it rang really nicely, and you can tell that it was just really well made for the time. It does feel like a Gibson USA guitar though, so this is the thing, because you don't have that VOS finish, you don't have the thinner finish that Gibson are doing now, it does feel like a Gibson USA standard, but a really, really nice version of that standard. I definitely give this Les Paul an 8 out of 10. For looks, it's incredible. That flame maple top is so even, so perfect. If you're looking for a really nice pinstripey Les Paul top, look no further than this guitar. I also really dig the factory burst. It's probably one of my favorite colors of the kind of original 50s and 60s Les Pauls. The red hue really offsets the yellow binding very nicely. And finally, the rosewood is really streaky. It looks incredible. I have to say that I really enjoyed playing this guitar today. But most importantly, guys, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of this prehistoric Gibson Les Paul RO? Do you like it or do you not? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure to leave a like rating down below to show your appreciation on this video, and make sure to subscribe for more content. And if you want any more information on this amazing guitar, then head over to our website down below in the description. And thank you so much for watching Squealing Pig Guitars. My name is Ben Keightley, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode. But until then, keep rocking, guys. I'll see you soon.